feel like everything's off kilter.
Well, we could go into the astrology and
We
explain
could.
that.
Hi everyone. My
Hi.
name my name is Randy May. All right,
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
All right, let's do
Ready?
this. Yep.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology, and I'm here with Christa of Practical Astros for the April forecast. How are you today, Christa?
I'm good. Yeah, ready. I'm ready.
Hanging
It's
in there?
Aries
Yeah.
sun. Woke up with the dawn, fed the turkeys with a bunch of sunflowers. It was a really good start of the day. Yeah.
Wild turkeys.
Wild turkeys. There's a whole bunch of them that live in the trees behind my house, and they make this like noise as they like fly clumsily down, and then they just puff up. They're all toms. They're all males, so they just like puff around trying to attract the ladies, and I feed them sunflowers. So
Oh wow, what a cool thing to have
yeah,
on a Aries sun ingress too, to be
yeah,
able to feed the turkeys.
yeah,
Being very Aries. I don't like to say Aryan. That doesn't feel right.
yeah. Feels a little racist.
A little racist. Weird. I never thought about that before.
Yeah,
Arisian.
Arisian. Oh, that's so much nicer. Yeah. The
Well, we
Tim
start
Arisian.
we start April with very Arisian vibes, I think.
Mm,
And we're already in it. We're recording this Thursday, March 20th. And Venus and Mercury are retrograde in Aries right now.
mhm.
March 30th, Neptune moves into Aries. So Aries gets kicked up about 20 notches. And yes, the sun has just moved into Aries
Yep.
as we're recording this. And here we are.
Can we look at the ingress chart for
Yes, we
Aries?
can.
I'd like
Let's
to do
do
that
that.
just to get a sense of the astrological year. You have all your astro nerds on December 31st are like, actually, I don't celebrate it until the equinox. So let's look at the equinox and get a sense of the astrological new year.
I have it with Aries on the ascendant just to keep it easy. So it was actually Aquarius rising. The Pluto was rising when the ingress happened.
Mm,
So here we are, the ingress.
yeah.
Moon's in Sag as we start the astrological new year. And, I think for me, the major thing with the Aries ingress here is that Neptune and Saturn are going to meet there next year. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to pay attention as we enter this and see if there's anything that comes up.
Mm,
Um, we should talk a little bit about Aries, I think, because
yeah.
we start the month with the sun in Aries and Neptune moving into Aries. And Aries is, to me, sign of identity and independence. You get stuck with the warrior a lot. And
Yeah.
yes, it is the warrior. Um, but I mean, I guess we should say Mars is in Cancer. So it's more of a nurturing warrior right now, warrior for the family kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about Aries?
Well, in tarot, it's the Emperor card, and it's just to extract some meaning about like the Emperor. There is power. There is kind of maybe a past history of warrior. Warrior isn't just active in the battlefield, but if a warrior survives, it can gain that strength from strategy and be able to kind of have that authority. Over the authority over like for family and the authority for just your own engagement in your community. I like that. Not every Aries dies young, and I think that the energy we have with Aries is like that springing forth, a childlike energy. Maybe that the idea of the puer, like forever child, but Aries also ages, and the Emperor reminds me of just the longevity and the survival of Aries energy. It's where Mars is at home and the sun rejoices, and I just like the sense of kind of that paternal, not really gender specific, but that paternal caring for, fighting for, having the authority and wanting to do what's best for all for their own survival ultimately too. But
Mm.
yeah, definitely a fighter, like a bright fighter.
Yeah, survival comes up for me, I think, a lot
Mhm.
because it could be fight or flight as well. I think there's that dichotomy of, um, what do you do in a situation where you're threatened? And that's the concept of Aries. How do you protect yourself, the
Mhm.
people you love? Um, so yeah, we're,
Yeah.
no biggie.
Yeah. Well, I always like think of like, because I'm kind of forever baked in a looking at symbols and synchronicities and omens. I thought as I was coming into this room to like sit down to record this for you, I like downed a cup of coffee, ate a slice of bacon, and popped a couple of cordyceps capsules, and I was like, "That's fucking Aries right there." you
Oh
know
man. Do you
that
have any Aries placements, or what house is Aries on for you?
Aries is the sixth house. I am Mars ruled, but I don't have any planets there. I have points for sure, but I don't have
Mhm.
any planets there.
Yeah, same. It's my MC. And because we're both Mars ruled, I'm a Scorpio sun, you're a Scorpio rising. And I think that's something that's important to note is that because Aries is ruled by Mars, we always look to Mars, but
Mm-hmm.
also Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So when Aries things happen, it can light up the Scorpio area of your chart as well. So
Yeah.
especially if you're Scorpio, Mars ruled in that way, I think the end of March and into April is going to be focused on those people a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the calendar. So here we are. And you see Neptune moving into Aries on the 30th
Yeah. I like that you
of
put that in
March.
there. Sets it up.
Yeah, because it's like one of those transitional things and we have one, I think, at the end of every month lately where something happens on the 30th and it almost
Mm,
sets up the next month. And the sun's in Aries, Neptune moving into Aries, though, is a pretty big deal, specifically because Neptune's orbit is 166 years, I want to say, something like that. And so it takes a long, long time to get
yeah.
back to any sign. And the last time it was there was the Civil War. We discussed it a little bit on our March 4th
Mm-hmm.
cast. I like that you
Mm-hmm.
named it the March
Yeah.
4th cast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Neptune is really a collective planet because it's such a long orbit. And
Yeah.
as the further out you go, and that's why Pluto is so collective, not that it can't represent something in your personal life, but it really does. You see changes on a massive scale when these outer planets change signs. And Pisces is so ideological, and that's kind of what I've been working with Neptune moving in from Pisces into Aries, and the Civil War being, the first shots were fired
Mm,
the day before Neptune moved into Aries. And
yeah.
my brain was like, why would that be? And I think it's because the belief systems or the ideology you have or
Mm,
the spiritual, um, I guess, gumption that you build with Neptune and Pisces, you act on it with Neptune and Aries. And I think that's possibly something we're already seeing. There's a lot of ideological
yeah.
battles going on right now, especially in America, but all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's like you don't just arbitrarily, I mean, you don't just arbitrarily, you know, uh, shoot a gun or cast dispersions or whatever. Like there's something that builds and lifts it up to have a reason to. Like the idea of like shots fired isn't just an attack for an injury's sake. That when you hear like shots fired, it's like you had the intention to do that. I jokingly was just saying like if you had to choose one astrological sign to like never speak to again or whatever, what would you do and why would it be Aquarius? Because that was just like I was just making a joke. And Kira Ryberg, who's Aquarius, a very lovely human, was like shots fired. And after that, I was like, I'm not going to joke about that anymore because I love Aquarius. It was just like some dumbass joke. But the phrase itself is kind of like that actually hurts. It hurts not because it's just an injury, but it's like because maybe there is like some like subterranean opinion about it. It's the belief that kind of that fuels the action, and that the shared light between Pisces and Aries does have that relationship. Aries takes the action from the belief that is built up through the Pisces. And so it will be, I think that's why astrologers are really paying attention to that Neptune into Aries ingress, is because of that. It's a very very different expression of an outer planet. And given Western history, what happened the last time it was there, it's like, oh well, we already kind of feel it, we're already suspicious of it. And wait and see.
Yeah, I'm definitely suspicious. I mean, I'm looking at it, woo, and we haven't gotten there yet as we're recording this, but I will say one of the better things about April is that the eclipses are over.
Mm-hmm.
We are done with eclipses in April, and we'll just 6 more months after that, we'll have some more. But
Yeah.
I think, as we move into April, April 1st, which is a Tuesday, April Fool's Day, we do have the moon hitting Uranus, and I don't have that on the calendar, and it's a quick little blip
Yeah.
in the astrology, but for it to be on April Fool's Day, I thought was really funny because
Yeah.
Uranus is unexpected events, and you
Mm-hmm.
really can't expect April Fool's Day jokes. People around me know not to do that. Don't do
Oh
that to
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I cannot take it. I don't like it. I don't like to be scared, jump scared. I don't like to be tricked.
Yeah.
Very serious about that stuff. So please do not do that to me on Tuesday, April 1st.
It is Mars Day.
It
Yeah.
is a Mars day, isn't it? But I like a month that starts on a Mars day. It's like, go get them. And I
Mm-hmm.
think even with the moon hitting Uranus to open it up and then moving into Gemini, there is something about April that feels very it has movement, a lot more
Mm.
movement than March did. And even starting, we have Venus retrograde still.
Mm-hmm.
Venus at this point in time is in Pisces as we start
Yeah.
April retrograde. Mercury is retrograde as we start the month in Pisces. Saturn is in Pisces. So we're still doing the Piscean thing as we start the
Yeah.
month. So it may not, move that fast, but I love April 4th. I really,
Mm.
really love April 4th. And that's kind of where my attention went when I first started looking at it, because Saturn and Mars are trine, which they're
Mm-hmm.
supporting each other. Mars action in the intuitive sign of Cancer and the feeling side of Cancer, supporting Saturn, which is structure, in the also intuitive sign of Pisces, and both of them sextile to Uranus and Taurus. And I feel like this is synergy that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Have any
mean, like,
thoughts?
especially the malefics and trying to each other, they're supportive, right? But then that sextile with Uranus, it's like Uranus is in Taurus, ruled by Pisces Venus right now, right? She's
Mm-hmm.
retrograde,
I share the chart.
but at least she's exalted. And so the Uranus piece to it can sometimes be like, well, is that necessarily a good thing to have like the malefics talking to each other? It's like that, like if you have two enemies, you don't really necessarily want them in communication with each other, because then they might be out to cause you even more compounded harm. But Uranus there in Taurus, being ruled by an exalted, maybe yes, retrograde, but an exalted Venus, I feel like the chance of a disruptive or surprising opportunity with the malefics, at least it's ruled by that Venus. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just like, maybe yes, when the malefics get together, it's not always necessarily a good thing. And when they support each other, do you want the malefics supporting each other? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not, but I feel like Mars is in a better position. It's not retrograde. It's going to get out of its fall soon, like 2 weeks after this. And so having that support from Uranus, and then Saturn has Venus very close. Saturn is supported by that Cancer, really the Cancer moon and the Cancer Mars and that sextile with Uranus. It's like, hopefully this is a taking that intuitive emotional flow between the malefics with that surprising element of Uranus and the co-presence of Venus with all that stuff in the Pisces house. I don't know. I mean, I'm hesitant to be like, it's subjectively good because, you know, they trine each other, because when malefics get together, it's not always a great thing.
Hmm.
But my gut with this one is like, I have more hope for it than I would if Uranus was in a different position, or if Venus was in a different position hosting that Uranus. I just
Yeah.
think that Uranus is like there to like maybe kind of throw confetti into their evil scheme.
I think I totally get that. And I feel like nothing would get done without malefic energy, you
Yeah,
know?
true.
So it does feel like getting something done. And, with Mars being in Cancer, which is incredibly emotionally, um, I think there's been emotional turmoil. I think it's better now that it's direct, that it's gone retrograde, and it's almost like learned something,
Mm,
redone something in the Cancer area. So there is this sense that, okay, now I know where I'm going at
mm-hmm,
least. And Mars is action, but Mars can also be frustration. So when you have frustration connecting to
mm,
responsibility, for instance, which is a Saturnian concept, and then you throw in Uranus, which is revolution, it's like, you know what? I kind of feel like people throw off shackles this day.
mm-hmm.
It's like you can go your own way kind of situation. And that it really does match up with Neptune being in Aries. I do think something gets started or done on this day
Yeah.
or the days leading up to it. And, Uranus and Saturn is technically a personal planet, but Uranus is an 84-year orbit. It moves slow. So it is sort of collective as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this could definitely be a day that's in the news or something like that with
Yeah.
Saturn rules boats and ocean and movement over the waters. It is in a water sign.
Mm-hmm.
Mars in a water sign. I would watch water possibly. There's been a few of those things already with one of our ships, our tankers
Mm-hmm.
was hit. And Mars, even as we're recording this, is not too far off from here. It's within what, 10? It's within 8 degrees or something like that at this
Yeah.
moment, maybe even less, 6 degrees. So all of that's active as we move up to this point. And I think that's one of the things that me and you talk about a lot, is that you'll see the things happen maybe leading up to it. So at the
Yeah.
exact moment, which is 8:08 p.m., you know, nothing may happen that day, but leading up to it, it certainly could. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess caution would be a good thing to approach this day with, but don't forget the opportunity part of it. You know,
Yeah.
there may be an opportunity to act on, but definitely not something to be playing, like don't play with fire that day kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or um I I pull tarot every day, and I pulled a couple of like cups cards and water cards, but it was like the fiery part of water. And it was the birthday of a cat that had died, and I was mourning him. And I looked down, I filled up my car with gas and saw like gas droplets that looked like a little cat paw on the ground. And it was like, I was thinking like that fiery water is like petrol, it's like fuel. And that emotional response of that Ramon had just kind of like walked right next to me through that fiery fuel. So like that, yeah, don't play with fire, but don't play with like the fiery part of water either. Like, is that, I don't know what that
Yeah.
is, like a hot button emotional issue. When you were talking though, like having Uranus there, I was thinking like, you know, Boston Tea Party style protests, like kind of something comical or farcical or inventive or creative. There's
Yeah.
also like an anticia between the moon and Jupiter there that
Mhm.
day, like real quickly, while the moon goes through that 14th degree, so like that moment there is anticia, which is like the secret conjunction. Like there is some sort of behind the scenes with the exaltation ruler of Cancer there, that I like. So it feels, you know, I just have like this kind of reticent hope for that day.
I
And
do too.
yeah, yeah.
I do too. And especially in my own life, I think about how to use it. And anyone watching, this is a good day to get something done that needs the work, actual work that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
done. And Uranus helps you think outside of the box for it,
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think you could use it that way. But yeah, be on your toes maybe a little bit because you do have two malefics supporting each other.
Yes.
Oh, don't they always? And as we go through that weekend, and maybe I'll just show the chart again because there's things that happen
Mm-hmm.
that whole weekend. So, leading up to Monday, Mercury going direct and Venus conjoined to Saturn. So let me go back to the chart because it's really boom, boom, boom each
Yeah.
day. It feels like
And
as
because
we
there's so much like shift from like water, earth to air, fire this year, it's almost like these are like the last meetings that these water, earth signs are having together before they all shift into fire and air. Like Uranus is going to go into Gemini, Mars is going to go into Leo, Saturn, Venus going to go into Aries, like all that. It's just like these little, like tiny little, um, like intimate meetings with these before they go into that action oriented, those yang signs.
yeah, I totally see that. It almost makes me feel like the what do you call the army of boats? It's called something.
Fleet.
Yes, a fleet meeting in a bay,
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to either retreat or attack, one of those two, but especially this pileup right here.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn, Venus, Mercury, and the North Node are all in Pisces. Neptune recently out of there, but still pretty close, even though it's in a different sign. It's still right there with that pileup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is Saturday. This is the day after the Mars Saturn trine, but you can see there's still trine by degree. The
Yeah.
moon is going to hit it that night of Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what am I doing? Oh, yeah, I'm going to my high school reunion. Oh, I'll be in New Orleans. I guess we'll see. Perfect
Mm-hmm.
place to be when there's, a fleet of boats
You
in the
should go on
sky.
like a riverboat cruise.
Yes. Yeah, I might do that. Heck, why not? But it just keeps happening all weekend because as we get into Saturday, Venus starts getting closer to the conjunction with Saturn. Now, this would
Mm-hmm.
be the second in a series of three. February 9th was the first one, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's beautiful. That's the beautiful part of the malefic trine here is because there's a benefic in the
Mm-hmm.
mix, just
Yeah.
kind of cooling everything down. It's like, we need to reevaluate, how hard ass you're being, Saturn. We
Mm-hmm.
really need to reevaluate that.
Yeah.
And the exact conjunction is, I want to say,
Monday.
yeah. So Mercury's also slowing down. And then here we go. The exact conjunction be earlier in the day that day. Monday, April 7th, and Mercury's direct.
Yeah.
So several things
Freshly
happening.
direct. It's pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually goes direct in the 5 o'clock a.m. hour Central Time. And then it's at the same time as the conjunction of Venus
Mm-hmm.
and Saturn that it goes direct. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Um, and Mercury's ruling Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter being not in its favorite place.
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter's like, hey, I already know everything. I don't need to learn anything else. And Mercury's like, no, no, no. So if you're a mercurial person, this day will make a difference for you, I think, if you've had any trouble speaking, thinking, talking, writing, or
Mm.
with electronics, Mercury will be direct
Yeah.
finally
Well,
Monday, April
they're
7th.
kind of exchanging because they're both in each other's houses, so like
Yes.
there's that mutual assured destruction aspect between the two. Uh and this will be the last time they have that for a while until Jupiter goes into Virgo in like 3 years. So
Yeah. So, I mean, likely thoughts will be be thinking a lot that day is what I would
Mhm.
assume. I just would encourage a focus on, especially leading up to this day, especially the first week of April, of trying to avoid escapism
Mm.
and channel it into something healthier that Jupiter is really trying to point you
Mhm.
towards, making it real, especially with Saturn there. Now,
Mhm.
what's funny is Mercury won't hit Saturn. It gets right up to it.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, hey, no, I don't think I need to flirt with you again. I see the boundary, I see the rule. And that's why I think of escapism as it's such a Piscean thing.
Mm.
And, I do it so bad. I have Pisces moon, but I will avoid and avoid and avoid because I work really great under pressure.
Mhm.
And so this reminds me of that trait in myself. It's seeing the Saturn pressure. And it's like, okay, I got to do this. I have to work on this. I can't avoid it any longer,
Yeah.
is what I'm getting.
Well, and Pisces is the only sign ruled by both benefics. And that's like that kind of negative side of the benefics is like you don't want it to be tough. You don't want it to be hard. And the malefics do instigate change. They push you along to like, you know, make action to make something different. Because if you've got both benefics kind of surrounding you, it's kind of like things are fine. Why would I want to change
Things are
it?
good. Things are good.
Yeah, Saturn and Mars propel us forward.
Right. And I do like that, the mutually assured destruction. Maybe some ideas come out of the ether though with this
Mm,
mutual reception that we have. And I don't think Venus, when do Venus and Mercury meet up? They don't, do they?
no.
Yeah, they did it once and that was it.
Yeah.
They did it March 11th and won't do it again until November.
Yep.
So if you didn't hit that hit that March 11th hard, then
I
this
mean, they're
one's close.
close. They're pretty close. Yeah.
Yes, this one's incredibly close. So you can see the day after Mercury direct and Venus and Saturn, Venus has retrograded back behind Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of the significance of that, of Venus moving just a degree beyond where Saturn is to
Mm,
turn direct, or maybe is it 2 degrees? It stops at 24.
yeah.
So it's almost as if Venus goes retrograde behind Saturn to push it along or something.
Yeah. I mean, there is there's camaraderie with Saturn and Venus, with, Saturn exalting in Venus's temple of Libra. It does feel kind of like a mama bird making sure it's like you should just leave this party. Come on, I'll walk behind you make
Yeah.
sure you leave.
Yeah.
There is like a loving kind of push with
Yeah.
Venus kind of going around and just making sure, because Pluto's out there in the Aquarius house, but like Venus is here to kind of like sweep through just to make sure everybody pushes along, because we've had so much stuff in Pisces and Aries, and you can see just visually the chart is starting to like unravel a little bit and explore
Mm.
different parts of the chart. But there was such a pile up for in February, March, and definitely in April. I mean, we still have plenty in Pisces, but Venus is there just to kind of like sweep the floors. It's like sweeping the temple floor to like make sure
Mm.
all the old year is actually left, so that we can kind of go forward into Aries.
Yeah. And I think this could be Venus exalted in Pisces and Saturn being there and Saturn having camaraderie with Venus. There does
Mm-hmm.
seem like there could be a commitment here, depending on what Venus retrograde has brought up for you. If you
Yeah.
reevaluated whatever Pisces area of your chart, like for me, it's the ninth house, and reevaluating what do I want to learn, what do I want to teach, what do I want to share, how do I want to do it. And I think that day is a good day to say, okay, this is the thing I may want to do. And then Venus goes direct soon after that. So,
Well, and it seems like just currently the vibe with so many people, and I'm definitely looking at the eclipses for maybe having some sort of responsibility or reflection on this, is that people are overwhelmed and lost. They're like,
mm,
there's so much happening. They're having a difficult time like finding their place within their own situation or what they should do. and there's melancholy and there's grief and there's anger and there's love. There's all this emotional turmoil with Mars and Cancer as well. But this really does feel like, let's find a path forward. And Venus being there, kind of getting behind Saturn, is like it's recognizing there is a lot of melancholy still, just probably within this first week of April. The first, until Venus and Mercury get out of Pisces, it feels like a continuation of March, honestly. Once that happens, it'll be like a quick Aries season, and then we'll just get into the fixed season. But I guess just recognizing that there is a lot of people are struggling, like seriously struggling right now. And I think it's eclipse, I think it's Mars and Cancer, and it's these, double retrogrades with Venus and Mercury there in Aries, that I want to say, like, I feel like we'll have some clarity, especially with Neptune burning off into Aries, and then the freshly renewed personal planets of Venus and Mercury moving forward. I mean, Venus and Mercury kind of rule the eclipses in a sense of Pisces and Virgo. So like they're tied up into it. It just feels like an untangling as we kind of get further and further into April. So there's hope. There's like a bright dawn on the horizon that we can at least survey the battlefield and see exactly what has been going on, because that confusion and that lostness really does feel like it's feeding the anxiety and the melancholy.
It does. And, maybe this is the moment, if you're playing pool and all the balls get kind of jumbled up together and no one can make any moves. So somebody has to volunteer to be the one to break up I feel like maybe Venus is doing that, breaking up the pool balls, so that,
I like that.
Okay, we need to continue this game. The game is getting stalled by this big pile up, So I do think that this is an important step along the way. And I agree with what you said about melancholy and emotional turmoil. And I mean, it could be at its heaviest here because of the nature of Saturn and still trining Mars. But I mean, this is the perfect time to, be with the people you love and maybe paint or create and channel that into maybe some art or something that you can release in some way. Music, dancing, it doesn't matter. I think, and I know it's a Monday, but you can do it Sunday, so.
Yeah.
All right. That, yeah, that's really the biggest stuff happening at the beginning of the week, and then the rest of the week. And I will say the Uranus, Mars, Saturn stuff, throw in Venus, throw in Mercury, it all kind of holds here. It holds until the 12th. Venus goes direct in Pisces. And I have the mountain here because it's still behind Saturn. So Venus is relationship, it's love, it's money, it's what you like, it's what you value. But I get the sense that we're all really trying to help each other push these boulders up the mountain, with it being Saturn. And there's good stuff at the top of the mountain,
Well, during the full moon, is she still retrograde? Doesn't she go direct right after?
Right after.
So it's like the full moon also seems like it might reflect all of that, pushing that emotional boulder up the mountain.
Venus goes direct. I mean, it's got to be within the hour because the moon's at 39 minutes.
Yeah.
So when is the full moon? So 8:02 p.m. on April 12th in Central Time is when Venus goes direct. The full moon's at 7:22 p.m. Wow. So it is
40 minutes.
40 minutes that Venus goes direct. And how significant to have a full moon in Libra. That's Venus's sign. And it's just shining this really bright light on topics of relationship, topics of collaboration, and I'm hearing that word a lot lately. And I don't know if it's just because of the work I do, but I'm just hearing collaboration come up a lot, especially creative collaboration.
Yeah.
And with Venus and Pisces, where it's exalted, the full moon in Libra, Venus's sign, this moment does feel really good. The one caveat is Mars. That's the one caveat there. But it does feel good to me. Like, okay, this is almost the answer. Like there's an answer here with this full moon after an eclipse. So
Yeah.
the new moon was an eclipse in Aries, and maybe we should talk about that a little bit because that was March 29th at 9 degrees. Mercury was still, Venus was moving backwards. And then we have the full moon, which is typically the culmination from the new moon. New moon is seed planting. And then you have, okay, here's the culmination. Here's where it's going to show up. So all cardinal people, this is a full moon for you. And I would even give it to water signs too, because of Mars, Venus, Saturn, and Mercury and the North Node.
Just that. Yeah.
Just all that. Give it to water a little bit. But I do think it has potential to be a healing moment. And that is because the sun and Chiron are together as this full moon. It's almost like the moon's reflecting back the light of the sun with Chiron. It's like the wounding that you may be aware of around that time, because the sun does bring awareness when it conjoins something. It's like, hey, here's this thing. Chiron's the wounded healer. In Aries, that's the right to survive. How do we do that? Full moon in Libra, we have to have our people. We have to, have good relationships with people, know how to work with people. And Venus in Pisces is like, hey, no one knows what's going on right now, so we might as well be kind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Mars is there, but Mars is just past the square.
Yeah.
You've just passed it, which to me feels like there might still be, it might bring the illumination or the revelation of what that Mars retrograde has been. Mars rules Aries, Chiron is there with the sun. Like it might tie into that, but maybe it'll be like a reflection of like, I'm not currently being hurt anymore, but I'm just remembering of how I was hurt. And that's part of the healing, because like Mars isn't applying and making the injury or making that aspect. It's like it's close, but it's past it. And so let's maybe do that reflection piece of the pain so that we can learn, how to heal it. It's that quote that you found about like when you get bit by a snake, you don't chase the snake and ask what you did wrong to get bit. It's like you search for what you can do for the wound, like you recognize you were wounded and then you search for what you can do to process healing.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this date. I feel I'm not as concerned about Mars. Not until the sun squares it later, so I like this. I think it does have potential to be a little bit of a sting, I guess, that day because of Chiron. But in a way that lets you know, oh, this isn't healed all the way.
Yeah.
I need to attend to it. So
I thought I was over that. Apparently I'm not.
Exactly. So that's the 12th. No big deal. It's just a full moon with Venus, going direct. And I will say this about Venus direct. Planets are louder when they're slow and stationary. So Venus in Pisces, look at where it's at in your chart. It'll be loud. And I don't mind Venus being loud. I think it should be loud there. But it's probably going to have a little Saturnian flair to it.
So. I think she wants to be loud right now.
Yeah.
I think that's part of, Venus wanting to find her voice, and becoming that morning star is part of finding that voice.
I think you're right about that. And that's something that we should maybe talk about, is that Venus will start her process of being a morning star around this time, because the sun is now far away and it's had its cazimi. I'm going to get when the sun is square Mars, because I just wanted to know to have it on there, April 20th. I don't. So that's something I need to put before I put my calendar on Instagram. The sun does square Mars April 20th. That's okay. So moving on from April 12th, Mercury moving into Aries.
Yay.
I'm yaying it.
I like Mercury Aries.
I do. I think it's going to be a lot easier to have clarity, to get moving, get motivated. It won't be out of its shadow for a little bit, but at least it's direct, and at least it's in a sign that it doesn't get so confused in.
Yeah, it's out of its detriment and exile. So it's, It doesn't have like a lot of essential dignity in Aries, it being fire or triplicity or no decanic ruler, but it's like it gets to just be more playful and it's not as debilitated or confused. It's funny because it runs right into Neptune.
It does.
You know,
It
but
does. I mean, really that day it runs in the Neptune.
mhm.
Maybe go look at that really quickly because that's an intriguing day.
Like, hello, old
Mm-hmm.
stranger.
Let's see. Oh, fancy seeing you here. There it is. Yeah. So as soon as it ingresses, it's only 36 minutes away from
Mhm.
Neptune. And the conjunction is it's it ingresses at 1:25 a.m. and hits at 11:11 p.m. So I think you know,
That
I'm
whole day.
actually I'm really excited because if there's ever a moment that's going to teach us about Neptune and Aries, it's going to be this
Oh, yeah.
day
Good point. On Mercury's day, too.
on Mercury's day. And when Neptune's been in Pisces, sleepiness is something that I have noticed. And I
Mm.
mean, I don't really know how everyone works with it, but I physically feel transits sometimes. And
Mhm.
Neptune and Pisces, if Mercury were to hit it, if the moon hits it, if there's Mars trining it, it's just sleepy and dreams and
Mm.
sleep.
Mhm.
So I wonder what Neptune's dreamy nature as a planet, how that translates into Aries, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that's like the messenger, Mercury is one of the psychopomps that helps kind of ferry us between worlds. What kind of message that they'll get during that day?
Yeah, and important to note that that day Mars is anaretic at 29 degrees of
Mm.
Cancer. So, anaretic is referred to as the degree of crisis.
Mhm.
And we are actually having Neptune anaretic right now before it moves into Aries. So, it's just, I like to say, it's just the last point. It's like the last gas station stop on a trip where you know you'll be home in an hour,
Mhm.
or you'll be to your destination in an hour and you look at, oh man, that was a long trip through that, whatever.
Mhm.
And you kind of go over it in your mind, and I think that's how Mars and Cancer will be at this point in time. And to have Mercury and Neptune, it's like, oh, things are about to change because Mars will move into fire and trine Neptune
Mhm.
just after this. Let's see. There
Yeah,
it is.
especially Mars, like a fallen Mars leaving at that degree. You think of like a road trip of like that last gas station, but I was thinking of like when you're moving out of a house, and it's like the last
Oh,
things, like grabbing the magnets off the fridge and just stuff. It's like you can be a little sloppy because you're a little ruthless at that point. You're like, I'll just throw it
just
away,
want to get
donate
done
it,
with
just
it.
get it done with. So in an emotional space, what are you just like, I'm tired of having that conversation, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore,
Mm-hmm.
just cutting it. That's the beautiful thing about Mars, is it can go in and just like slice away what just, it can hurt, it can be a little harmful, it can sting. I'm in a herbal moon circle, using different plant medicines for the different moons, and during Aries season it's nettle, and like nettle has those little
Mm.
stingers that are similar to like an ant bite or like a little sting, and you can flagellate yourself with the fresh plant to like get that sting. It gets the blood going, it activates, it hurts, it pulses for a while, but it definitely like invigorates and gets some sort of movement, and that like that emotional sting feels like the capacity at Mars at the anaretic degree of any sign, but in an emotional place like Cancer. um I could also see it as like the creative space that water has too, having that creative, like I just need to get rid of these art supplies and just start over with a different medium, because I'm stuck and it's pissing me off, and I just want to, I have that urge to just like make something and to express it in Leo. And so it doesn't have to just be like emotional, like mom wombs, you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
just be that, but it's just that kind of like tense energy of just wanting to burst through, wanting to get the past behind you, wanting to go forward, but going into Leo as that expression.
Mm. And it's an intriguing weaken that way because Mercury right before will trine Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Mars hits 29-0 at like 1:11 p.m. April 15th. That's probably about 1 p.m. So you get that message of, I mean, literally message because it's Mercury
Mm-hmm.
of what Mars and Cancer has brought up for you. And yeah, I mean, I love the moving metaphor
Yeah.
because it does make you think it's the cleanup moment. It's the moment we have to do what we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
And with Mars and Cancer, Mars will be at the 29th degree for a few days. So Mercury trines Mars April 15th, moves into Aries, and then you'll have Mars at the 29th degree till April 17th at night. So it'll be
Mm-hmm.
2 full days of anaretic Mars. And what I find so cool is that Mercury trines Mars from water, and then Mars
Mm-hmm.
moves into fire and trines Neptune with Mercury still pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
it
It's a
gets
degree
both.
away. Yeah.
And it's very much you're done with that. Now it's moving on to fire. Like you said, it's just that change into
Mm.
everything into fire. So yeah, this moment, April 17th, which is a Thursday, Mars moves into Leo.
It's at midnight East Coast. So I have like April 18th in my
Oh, you have
head.
April
Yeah.
18th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Central time over here. So yeah, for West Coast, it's going to be the 17th, East Coast, 18th, East
Mm-hmm.
Coast, and more East. It'll be the 18th.
Yeah.
But I think with Mars moving into Leo, I have on my calendar, this is probably the favorite emoji I chose, is the coffee
Yeah.
cup
Yeah.
running, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's not in its fall.
Mm-hmm. Where
It
it's been
can move
retrograde and yeah, it can move at the pace that it likes to move, which is forward and fast.
forward and fast. I
Yep.
like that. And I think that everyone will really start to feel that. We still have some Piscean things
Mm-hmm.
to work out. But this is when I think this week, the middle of the week, things really start to feel like they're moving a
Mm-hmm.
lot more. And then the next day, the sun moves into Taurus.
So a lot more fixed energy. So when Mars moves into Leo, it's going to be opposing Pluto, by house, but within a couple of degrees. I think Pluto's at like 3. And then the sun going into Taurus, another fixed sign, starts to square both of those. So we're going to start to get up until now, it's been trines and conjunctions. There's been a couple of sextiles of just like, oh, okay, let's move forward. And then like the fixed come in with their like platform shoes, making a bunch of noise, being like, nope. Now that y'all have said your piece, it's time for me to step on my soapbox and have a long monologue about all the things that I want to argue with you about.
Exactly. So let's look at that because so you get Mars and you see how close it is for
Mm-hmm.
those that are viewing this to the opposition as soon as it moves in. And it's trine Neptune
Mm-hmm.
almost immediately. Then let me get the sun in Taurus. I want to get sun entering 0 Taurus. That's going to be April 19th. And Mars is still moving so slow. It's still at 0 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that sets off the square between the sun and Mars.
Yeah, the sun is out of its exaltation now, out of Aries into Taurus. But what the fixed signs do is that they sustain and carry forward what the changes that are instigated in the cardinal. And so I think of the sun in Aries, what sustaining energy is being carried through in Taurus, and then Mars in Cancer. What change was held or what change was begun in that, and now Leo is sustaining that. But then Pluto is over there, kind of addressing both of those because it spent 15 years in Capricorn and it's now fully into Aquarius. And so those are larger moments of that larger change. So, but Mars against Pluto, I mean, what happened last time when Mars opposed Pluto with Leo Aquarius? Do you remember?
That's a good question. And let me see when that was. Mars opposite Pluto. There was something, and I bet the date will. So it was January 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And then November 3rd, well, we know what was going on November 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
January 3rd would have been right before the inauguration
Inauguration's on the 20th. So I
or
mean,
the swearing in, something. What's the
the January 6th, the
certification?
certification of the election.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. And I mean, I think Pluto in Aquarius does have political connotations, so it could
mhm.
be another political moment. Because I know around that time, I'm just looking. Oh, that was also the Venus ingress into Pisces, January 3rd was too. So this is the third one. April
Yep.
26th
Yep.
is the third Mars Pluto opposition.
So there was that attack in New Orleans. That was the
Ah,
first. There was that Jimmy Carter died. Um, there's the uh, Gaza war, Ukrainian war. Yeah, but
mhm,
there were a couple of shipwrecks in Tunisia that killed a couple of dozen people. But the attack in New Orleans was pretty shocking for the U.S. It was a very brutal attack with a car driving through the French Quarter, just running over people. There's a lot of people that died. But
mhm,
then the death of Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is a beloved humanitarian president of the U.S. Not everybody loves him, but most people do. He had a life of service. If you think of that axis between service of humanity with Aquarius, and then a solar leader, a president of a major country in the world, being that Leo. So
and
that.
this is still the lunation attached to the eclipse. So this is
Mm-hmm.
the third quarter square of that solar
uh
eclipse.
yeah.
And I was just looking at April 20th because it's the exact sun square Mars. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's also a T square with Pluto and the moon's there.
And it's Easter.
And it's Easter. So, yeah, I
So
mean,
religious holidays are always targets for protest and violence.
they
And
are.
so that does concern me. I'm going to be in Ireland for Easter this year, and plan to go to some holy sites like Newgrange or Tara, one of those
Mhm.
places. But I was looking at that, I was like, to be in a foreign country on Easter, on a religious and an old holiday during this, it feels tense.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm probably gonna avoid crowds. I mean, just by way of the things that have already happened. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's not to be fearful, it's not to be whatever, but personally speaking, Pluto being in Aquarius, that's literally rules crowds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, let's just maybe keep it at home or something. I'm not saying don't go to church on Sunday, but be aware because Mars
Mm-hmm.
is what Mars is.
Yeah.
Mars is the cutting knife. Mars is um, a malefic in and Saturn's a malefic too, but Mars is the active malefic of the
Mm-hmm.
two.
Well, and
So,
the solar figure thing kind of sticks out because the sun is kind of in the middle of that. And so I really do think it might be, because Uranus is co-present. It's very far away from the sun, but it's co-present with Taurus, of that suddenness. It's sextile Venus,
mhm,
sextile Saturn still within a degree. I wonder if on Easter there's going to be some sort of disruption with some sort of uh, leader. You know,
mhm,
maybe it's a
mhm.
leader within your own community, a leader of your church. Maybe it's your pastor saying something outrageous that causes you to leave or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to
Right.
be, violent and death. Easter as a time, it's an old holiday, and it's related that the idea of today the sun goes into Aries, it's starting to grow. It's that idea of the return of light and crawling out of caves and cracking out of shells, and having it's hard to like break out of old versions of yourself, and this it can be a personal breaking out of an old shell, and that pain that's involved. You do it because the energy has reached a certain point where you need to break up, break out, break down, whatever it is. Doesn't have to be completely globally catastrophic. It can just be on a personal level of like, Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to make this change. I'm ready to, download Noom or whatever. It just can be like that 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 breakthrough. Uh, but I am paying
Mhm.
attention just to the solar figure uh,
Mhm.
piece of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and my eyes too come to the Venus Saturn. It's still, I mean, it's within a degree, so
Mm-hmm.
conjunction, because Venus is ruling the sun in Taurus,
Mm-hmm.
and Saturn is ruling Pluto in
The,
Aquarius, and Mars is in the sun sign. So it just keeps coming back to Venus Saturn here. So I'm thinking of people with prominent Pisces placements too, and or prominent mutable,
mm,
and maybe those being someone who the solar figure, because the solar eclipse, which is what this lunation is still a part of,
mm-hmm.
is linked to the fall of a king.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Yeah.
is very solar in nature. The other thing that Taurus makes me think of is things like supply chain and food and
Mm-hmm.
the environment. And so all of that, you have a lot of associations in astrology that you can find your way towards a prediction. It's more like a wait and see though, and just be aware, I think, of this day. Just be aware of what's going on around you, of your
Mm-hmm.
surroundings, especially if you are in a crowd. Um, and report back. We want to hear what happens.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'll let y'all know what happens to me, I promise.
Yeah. Maybe the price of eggs will suddenly drop.
That would be awesome. And we're going to write that into reality because we want goodness. We want
Yeah.
safety for everyone and health. And, maybe Venus will come through on that
Yeah.
day and fix some things. That's what I hope. Oh man. Yeah, that day feels pretty intense, and it just keeps moving because whoops, Lord. Sorry about that. It just keeps moving because that was the 20th, the moon in Aquarius, and
Mm-hmm.
then the actual sun square Pluto is not even until the 23rd.
Yeah.
So it holds pretty tight
All those days. Yeah.
all those days. And then Mars opposite Pluto is not till the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
So this week is probably my vote for the, if you want to say difficult
Mm-hmm.
or the most tense, maybe, is the week of the 20th, because even the Venus conjunction with Saturn, I mean, it can be nice because Venus is always nice. But there is a commitment there. And if things are going on around in the outer world, in your family, whatever's going on for you with this Pluto, Mars, Sun stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Venus, Saturn is encouraging you to lock in on something, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Even
So
making amends, like, okay, like we got to be able to move forward together. We love each other. Let's try to weave
mhm,
weave weave a little bit of compromise, you know.
absolutely. Um, so I mean, I almost feel like we talking about the 20th have talked about the whole week,
Yeah.
because the only thing that changes is the moon.
Yeah.
That's it. And on the 23rd, the moon will be, I guess, a harbinger for the Venus Saturn conjunction, and it'll be there during the Venus Saturn conjunction. The moon
Mm.
will be in Aries during the Mars opposition to Pluto.
And it'll be balsamic then, once
Yep.
it gets into Aries, it'll be balsamic because it's new on that Sunday. So it furthers that honoring what's dying, honoring what needs to be composted so that new growth can happen. So again, it's translating all of that, all of the square energy and the oppositional energy into let's let you know let's let what's not serving us die so that we can use that as compost for this new moon that's about to be, because the moon exalts in Taurus, and so it's good to let go of these things that we have better fertilizer for that new moon seed.
Mm,
And this is the
yeah.
first new moon that is not 9 degrees.
Yes. The very first one in like 6 or 7 months,
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so up through the 26th, I mean, that's the exact Mars Pluto
Mm-hmm.
opposition too. So then we get, I think the new moon here, it's almost like okay, you dealt with the tough. Now,
Hmm.
now we need to find some comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. Taurus moon loves their comfort.
Venus
Ask
is
me
past
how I
Saturn.
know.
Venus is past Saturn, so
Hmm.
there's just it's a little lighter, almost like immediately it feels like.
Yeah, and I think Venus exalts at the 27th degree of Pisces. So
Mm,
she's been going through that exaltation degree. So she's at kind of her best while she's conjoined Saturn. She's at her degree in her sign. The ruler isn't in the best condition, but eh, she's got the best that she can while she kind of has all these conferences with Saturn before she leaves.
yeah, and look at the moon. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember looking at this chart.
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And the fact that Venus is just past 3 minutes past Saturn on the
Mm-hmm.
24th, and the moon's there at her exaltation degree. That's a beautiful moment. So,
Because
I
I
mean,
think that happened before. Can you go back and see the
mhm.
last time they conjoined?
Yeah, I think you're
Because I
right.
think the moon was also there.
Sounds right. That was April 7th.
So go
So,
back, yeah,
to the
and
one before
oh,
that.
maybe not. Yeah, I was
Oh,
thinking.
no, it was opposite. The moon was opposite
Oh, right. Okay.
the January 18th one. So again, that's another thing that's happening 3 times is the Venus Saturn conjunction. So
Mm-hmm.
January 18th, April 7th, and then this April 24th one. And I don't want to glaze over the North Node being there either. I think that's important for the
Mm-hmm.
eclipse cycle, especially because we only get one North Node eclipse that's fully in Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
So
Strangely.
strangely, that's going to be. But this day we'll have some eclipse themes to it. I think just what is the North Node doing in your life, and Saturn. I mean,
Yeah.
both of them. And then so that moment, I would say, looks like the 24th, and then was it overnight that the moon hits at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
It's a I don't know if you'd call that a great election, but it does look pretty cool for if you needed to take care of something, especially something with regards to relationships, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new moon, the 27th at 7 degrees, with Venus still in Pisces. I love that Venus is exalted. Venus rules Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have been thinking, I think on I have a garden, a hand holding people, but it looks like a garden too.
Oh, yeah.
Because it feels like with this Taurus new moon, Uranus is about to leave Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of change with regards to how we connect to others. The Venus retrograde being just over,
Yeah.
connecting to Saturn, Pluto in Aquarius, which is a very collective sign. There does seem to be a little bit of we are holding each other in our hands, and how do we just help make each other comfortable? We all want comfort. We all want safety, which is a very Taurus
Mm-hmm.
word. Um, and it feels like that's where we're going to find it during this moment, is in the people that are close, others,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know. How does your garden grow?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you go back to the chart? There was something that jumped
Mm-hmm.
out and then I already forgot it. So maybe the chart will make me remember. Oh, yeah. So they're both the moon and the sun during that new moon are in Venus's bound or
Yes.
her terms are operating on her terms, and they're in Mercury's decan. And so and Mercury is in Venus's bound. So I mean, like I like that there is a heavy Venusian uh element to this of how
Mm-hmm.
do we work, how can we work with each other, how can we help each other before things go wrong again.
Mm-hmm.
It really is that is something that fixed signs like to do, is I like to go in and like see the disruption and the chaos that was created by the changes from cardinal, to be like, how can we make this work? Because it's like when you run and you have these microfractures in your bones, and then your body fills it up with more calcium to fortifies your bones. It's like the microfractures were there from the action from that cardinal energy, and the fixed response is like, let's make it stronger. Yes, you broke it open a little bit, but now we have the chance to make it stronger. And that sustainability of fixed signs, of the stable bodied signs, their job is to just sustain the change so that it's more functional. Like all the fixed signs they're about longevity and functionality. And it's not just about being stubborn. There is still momentum and movement with fixed signs. And I like that it's Venusian saturated with this new moon, of like, how can we make it the most fun and enjoyable and, you know, borderline hedonistic if we wanted. Like, what could we do just to have some fun with it and have fun together? I like the image of the people growing out of your hands like a garden. It's like, what seeds are you planting with your like social world? Like, are you hanging out with the friends that you want to hang out with? I mean, in the natural products world, there's the idea of, you know, that your microbiome, your own probiotic makeup is kind of determined on like people you share food with, you know, like you do kind of share bacteria with each other. And it's like, if you have someone that kind of has bad bacteria, you start to have that too. It's like you share that. And it's like, who do you want to share bacteria with? You know, what kind of living organisms do you want to grow with other people? And you know, like it's like you want the good probiotic friends, or do you want the E. coli friends? Because like, you know.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I do think this moment, and it's funny because Taurus is not always associated with relationship, but I think my mind goes to, what is Neptune and Aries doing to Libra? What is, and Venus is going to move into Aries not long after this. And it's almost like not a last ditch effort, but there is a reminder here of others, of what you need in your life and how you share it with others, you know, because the full moon will be in Scorpio. That's other people.
Yeah.
And how you share your stuff. So that won't be till May, but this is the seed point for it. So let's go back to the calendar.
And then Mars was retrograde at 6. So it's nearly out of the shadow at that point.
Nearly. And this new moon, before I forget, is still in a little bit of a T-square. It's past it, which is, it is almost like the picking up the pieces. It's like, okay, all of that tense stuff just happened, that the whole week prior to this. So now, you know, if we're planting a seed with all of that just happened in mind. And I think you already touched on this already, but it's definitely almost like an aftermath rebuilding kind of a new moon a little bit.
Well, similarly, like how we started saying, like, there's a reason the shots are fired. You have a reason to. It informs it. And that new moon, it's like the intentions you intend to nurture, the seeds that you want to plant, and then remember to water. It's informed by all that's happened that week prior, you know, that discord and that tension.
Absolutely. So what we got after that? Oh, right. We're almost done with the month. Venus moves into Aries on the 30th and immediately hits Neptune. Immediately. So let's do this. Venus conjunct Neptune, because that's going to be May 2nd. So, oh yeah, so then it's moving at the 1st degree. Okay. So Venus moves into Aries April 30th at, I'm curious about the anaretic part of that too, but not as curious as I was about Mars anaretic. At 12:16 p.m. Central, 1:16 East Coast p.m. Venus in Aries. It started its retrograde at 10. So, oh, by the way, Mercury's out of shadow. Woo, Mercury's out of shadow long before this, but let me just go make sure. When does that happen? That's 9. So April 26th, Mercury's out of shadow. And then April 30th, Venus is getting close to being out of shadow. But Venus in Aries is, it's not its favorite place to be. But for all of the planets that are in detriment or fall, I don't hate Venus in Aries the most. I kind of feel like it's it does a lot better than, let's say, Jupiter and Gemini. I think Venus and
Yeah.
Aries has a little more affinity. Maybe because that's Venus's job, is to bring peace and balance. And so
Mm-hmm.
even when it's not comfortable, Venus is still trying to do that
Yeah.
in the sign of the warrior. That, and Mars is in Leo. So there's that fire feeding
Mm-hmm.
off of each other.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I like Venus and Aries, just as an experiential planet. I don't know how it is to have it in your nativity.
mhm.
Venus rules the last 10 degrees of Aries and the decans, and that tarot card is the Four of Wands, and it kind of shows it's like four wands with garlands in between. It looks like two people are getting married. It's very celebratory. Like Venus, not at home, is not shackled with the responsibilities of trying to be the mediator and helping everybody get along. She just gets to have fun. And
Oh,
she
I
might be
love
a little
that.
wild, she doesn't have her tool bag with her to like express her significations, but in a way that can be kind of free. Venus and Aries can be a little more like callous, a callous Venus, or like a mouthy Venus,
Yeah.
which again, like I kind of like to experience just collectively. If you have Venus and Aries in your natal chart, like tell us what you think of it. I mean, I have lots of Venus and Aries friends and really enjoy their expression of Venus. And it's not very sentimental. Like Venus and
Mm-mm.
Pisces is all sentimentality. Venus and
Yes.
Aries is kind of like, yeah, you know, onward.
Yeah.
Let's move
Gotta
forward.
get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Going to battle.
freeing and liberating and spicy, and just Venus and Aries is more vocal about its own needs, and I just appreciate that. Yeah, I like that.
Mm. Yeah. And I also, Mercury, we talked about Mercury, Neptune, and similarly with this ingress, it's going to inform us on Neptune and Aries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
and I'm curious about that because Venus and Neptune, I think, have an affinity for each other. I think Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So when they
Mm-hmm.
meet up in Aries, it's really going to explain a lot, I think.
Mm.
But, and this really happens immediately. I know it's 0 degrees and Neptune's at 1, but I think you can go ahead and count this ingress as the conjunction
Yeah.
that lasts a couple of days
Yeah.
because it's ruled by Mars. Mars is now in Leo. Leo and Aries both are pretty personal signs. They're about my creative self expression, my
Mm.
romance, my identity, my independence. It's kind of me, me, me. And then you have Venus and Mars trining each other eventually, and they're doing it by sign at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There is a sense of, I lost myself for a minute, but I'm finding myself again. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
what is fun? What is joy? What do I want to do? If, I can kind of think of, if the world's going to burn, I'm going to have fun while it does it.
Well, it looked like the moon and Jupiter are right next to each other too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
At
like
the
that.
ingress. And I
Yeah,
noticed that too. And I was like, oh my gosh,
that's
it just
fun.
feels fun.
Yeah.
And not that nothing's ever always, all the way perfect. And I think with the South Node and Virgo, we can't expect it to be. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe this moment is a moment that we can, pull out the deck of cards with your buddies and
Mm.
gamble a little bit, maybe with fake money.
Yeah.
With Venus and Neptune together, you don't want to use real money, probably.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're bold, Venus favors the bold.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's building up to something that happens in May, I think, and that is Saturn's ingress into Aries. And
Mm,
every single ingress, I'm going to pay close attention, not only to things like my motivation and my frustration, but also things like, how am I working independently?
mm,
What
mhm,
it How do I appear to people? How do I want to appear to people? Because that's really going to be where the work is when Saturn ingresses Aries, I think. And um, do I hold myself back? Are there things that I need to pay attention to that I'm not right now, especially with regards to the Aries archetype? You know.
mhm. Yeah, because Saturn has fallen there, and on one hand, if you look at a planet that's fallen, it doesn't have its own toolkit to be able to use and express itself. And for a malefic, it's like, well, means that Saturn has to work really hard and maybe is a little grumpy at having to do that, but
Mhm.
it's not as easily expressed in that way. And so all of you Saturn and Aries people, you're coming into your Saturn return, your first, second, or third Saturn return with Saturn and Aries. And we it's just going to be interesting to see Saturn being in Aries, and then Jupiter going into Cancer, Uranus going into Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius. Like I feel like broken record at this point of just been like the palpable shift of that fire and air, fire and air, fire and air, and
Mhm.
Saturn reluctantly. So Saturn likes the limits, the boundaries, the edge, and you know Aries is the bold one to like stand on the edge to see what's over it. And I like that combination of, maybe the dichotomy of that loud, expressive Aries with a hermit like Saturn, that
Mhm.
combination. But finding those edges um, for the adventure of it. Saturn values time and Aries wants things to happen quickly. So I think that's the tension that will come with this ingress, just collectively. If,
Yeah.
if you don't have, you want to build something, but you want to build it really fast because you see it in your mind of how you want it to be, but Saturn makes you build it brick by brick, and Aries just wants it to fucking happen. Like that's
Hmm.
the tension. It's like the tension of time. Aries, the sun exalts there, and the sun and Saturn are notoriously oppositional with each other, right? So there is that tension of time and wanting things to happen in a certain way. But Saturn ultimately prevails as far as like teaching us the value of building things brick by brick. And
Mm.
I think what this Saturn in Pisces has been soft. I mean, it has been Saturnian for sure. I just feel like Saturn will be more expressive once it gets into Aries. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's the Sabian symbol is getting at that it's the impulse to be for the
Mm,
0 degree of
mm-hmm.
Aries. And I love it's a woman just risen from the sea. A seal is embracing her as the Sabian
Yeah.
symbol. And it's the potentiality that
Mm,
needing to make something happen. And I think with the Venus ingress, there's going to be just awareness of that. But then when
mm,
Saturn ingress is there, it's like, okay, I've got to really dig in, like you said, brick by brick, if I'm going to build this thing. So
yeah.
it's definitely something to note in your calendars, I think.
There's a while Saturn is in Pisces, there's a band out of Kentucky, Freakwater, and
Yeah.
Catherine Irwin is she wrote this one because there's two women that write the songs, and Catherine wrote this one. I forget what the name of it is. I think it's I've been good for nothing. And the phrase or what she wrote is one drink and then another, I find myself far beneath the waves, um, stuck with the stolen jewels of the drowning men that I've saved. And I love just the idea of just like sinking down of like I've saved all these drowning men, but I am drowning in the reward of how many people that I have saved. Like just like that feels so Saturn Pisces, and Catherine is a
Oh,
Pisces sun,
yeah.
but she has like this beautiful, like kind of heartbreaking imagery of like, look how anchored you can be, like holding on to like the people that you have helped, but you yourself are the one that needs the help. I mean,
Oh,
I love that
wow.
song.
That's a great just example of what we're talking about with Aries too.
Yeah.
And what,
Come out of the ocean being wrapped in a seal, like slough off all the jewels of the drowning men you saved so you can just be you again.
yes, impulse to be. I really love
Mm-hmm.
that. And I just wanted to show May 24th, that's when Saturn moves into Aries since we were
Mm.
talking about it. I just wanted to get that.
Ooh, Mercury, Uranus.
Uh, yeah.
Wow,
And
cool.
it's at night too. It's a Saturday night on Saturn's day.
Mm-hmm. It's Bob
Saturn moves
Dylan's
into.
birthday.
Oh, there you go. So that's what we have to look forward to in May, and we'll talk more about that
Yeah, I'm looking forward to May.
in May. We'll do one more share of the calendar and all the things I forgot to put on here. But
What's your
that's
day?
okay.
What's the one that you're looking at?
I know I didn't put the 20th on there. I think that was the sun square.
Sun square
So
Mars.
favorite day or not favorite day?
Either. Which one? Which one's getting your attention?
Um, I I am really excited about this day.
Mm.
And I know it's the malefic trine,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I've just had enough malefic crap in my life for the last year
Mm.
that this, I don't know, I feel like it may break me out of it in some way with Uranus. So I really do love that. And I think I'm most not looking forward to probably that third quarter square of the moon on the 20th with the
Mm.
moon and Pluto square the sun and Mars.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the intensity week. What about you?
I'm looking at the moons. The Venus direct, full moon in Libra, and then that new moon in Taurus. Like those are the ones. Like I'm in a lunar year, so the moons are getting my attention. But and then Mars and Leo. Like thank fucking God.
I know that's gonna be nice, and I
Mm.
may I may go ahead and put that on my second favorite.
Mm.
Both
Mm-hmm.
of them, just the change. I'm looking forward to the change
Yeah.
of the ingresses, and from here, really, this month is the month that starts to instigate the changes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it's right. Neptune's in Aries, then we get Saturn in Aries, then we get Jupiter in Cancer, Uranus in Gemini,
Mm-hmm.
and we have Pluto in Aquarius now. So lots of fresh stuff coming in with April, but it's like we have to make it through these tug of wars first, and
Yeah.
then and May is going to be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yay!
April showers bring May flowers, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Will it do my heart? It might.
Oh, it doesn't work for mine.
Sometimes it does. It's not doing it. I don't have it enabled. But I do love you guys.
Love you too.
All right. Well, I guess that does it for April. I'm Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology.
I'm Christa, Practical Astros, and we'll see you next month.